There's sort of this phenomenon that happens, right, where you watch something and then maybe you take a break from it for a while. You don't watch it again for a couple years. Maybe you watch someone's YouTube content about it, which I've done. I've watched some Death Note YouTube content. You sort of lose your grasp on what actually happens in the story, and you more so base your opinions on the story off of other people you've heard speak about it. And something I realized on this latest watch of Death Note is that, uh, well, Light doesn't win anything. Light, as far as I can tell, Light's just a dumb bitch. Like, every time he's on screen, it's just dumb bitch hours. I should probably preface this by saying that yes, I understand Light is written to be a smart character, even if he's not in actuality. And that's because a writer can only write a character as smart as they can think of, right? Like if a writer's not very smart or doesn't have a way of expressing how smart he is, then you're bound to get characters that aren't all that smart either. Like, for example, when Kishimoto writes Itachi and everyone's like, oh my god, Itachi's battle wit is nuts. No, Itachi just knows genjutsu and can pull a couple ultimates out. Like, he's not that crazy. So the same thing, like, applies to Light, right? Like, people call Light smart. In reality, he's got a couple tricks up his sleeve, but from the very beginning, he pretty much, commits a death sentence, right? Like, a lot of people will talk about all the times Light got up on L and L got up on Light. In reality, I think Light never does get up on L, because you have to keep in mind the character's goals, right? You have to break them down into what they want to do and what they have to do, things like that, right? So for Light, Light just wants to kill as many people as possible. He wants to kill criminals. He starts off by killing some big ones, and then he moves into killing small ones, right? Like, he starts killing people for petty reasons. He just wants to kill people. And he needs to not get caught. And that's really it. When it comes to L, what L wants is to arrest Kira. He wants to arrest whoever is killing people. And then he has to abide by things like laws, or in, I guess, the biggest case, he has to abide by proving something in court. Courts don't necessarily rely on like a super strong epistemology. They more so rely on just reasonable cause for someone to be somewhere and do something at a general time period for the most part, right? But there's a big difference between these two. Although people draw a lot of similarities and like to talk about how both of them are ethically unsound, um, there's actually quite the difference. Because one is literally just trying to do whatever he can, express freedom in the most evil of ways, while the other one's trying to build a case. And a big issue that stems from this is that what Light is doing is supernatural. As far as we know, you can't actually prove the supernatural, right? There's a difference between supernatural and technology that is so complex that it appears to be supernatural in just about every way. Though there would be a strong correlation between Light writing names in the book and the people whose names are written dying, there's not exactly any evidence to support that what he's doing is actually causing the deaths of people. Which, to be fair, courts are completely subjective, and they may just rule that Light's killing people anyway, even if they don't understand exactly how he's doing it. Or, of course, because these are big governments we're talking about, they could just off him if they have enough evidence to support that among themselves. But L doesn't appear to be going that route. He appears to be trying to build a case, and he's trying to build a foolproof case. So he's sort of going above the law, making sure that he has all the evidence he needs to 100% guarantee that Light gets locked away. And that's not really a gas up for L, right? Because if you are right about something for the wrong reasons, well, then you may as well be wrong about it, right? Because we know things are true, we know things are correct because of the evidence that supports it. So if you don't have the evidence to support it, but you believe it to be true, and it happens to be true, you're still wrong in the sense that your line of reasoning is incorrect. But that doesn't take away from the fact that L essentially raw dog light the whole time. He was on that boy. Something that I find fascinating that people don't often bring up is that L literally says from like the very beginning that he's trying to get close to light. He's trying to get light to uh, essentially stay near him, kind of join his side. And people seem to not understand the importance of him saying that so early on. If I remember correctly, he says that in like the first 3 episodes. I wish I had a clip of him saying it, but I don't. So everything leading up to the point where Light is officially detained, right? Like he joins the team, which then puts him under constant surveillance. There's not much of a difference between being in company of police under surveillance and being in custody. In a way, L kind of uh, arrests Light pretty early on. He sort of controls everything that Light does. He takes away a large chunk of his freedom, which is exactly what something like imprisonment would do. Every little test, every little thing he does to either get close to Light or make Light think twice about things are all just ways for him to manipulate Light into the ultimate goal, which is having enough mutual respect that he can get Light under his constant surveillance, which he does. And then subsequently, as soon as he does, for the most part, he chains him up with him directly. And this brings up a little sub goal. Uh, even though L is trying to catch Kira, and at this point we know that he has completely stopped Kira from operating, which has forced Light to hire someone else, like hire out to do Kira's bidding. And people will go ahead and say, okay, well in that regard, then Light is no longer Kira. Someone else has taken Kira's place. And although I do agree with that, at the same time, whoever the original Kira was is still a person who can be brought to quote unquote justice. And for the most part, L does that. Light himself wants to be God. He wants to be the one who is doing the punishing. He wants to be the one that is respected. He likes being popular. He likes being witty, and he likes not getting caught, sort of slipping away, being unstoppable. And we know that he's not really in it for the chase. We know he actively is trying to kill L, meaning that he's trying to stop his opposition so he can go forward with doing what he wants, being supernatural and killing criminals. So, as much as I say he likes the chase and wants the chase, he also desperately wants it to end because getting caught is the opposite of what he wants, right? And the issue is that when he trades the killing off to somebody else, uh, he is not accomplishing his goals, right? Although people may be getting punished, they're being punished by someone else. Someone else is being looked up to. Someone else holds the title of being Kira. That is why his biggest thing that his biggest fallback option was to write false rules in the Death Note and then parachute out of danger by relinquishing, if that's the right word, the Death Note. So his ultimate form of making sure he doesn't get caught is by no longer being Kira and no longer have any memory of being Kira. Which in that moment, he failed. He failed a couple different times. The first time, he failed when he let someone else be Kira for him. And then he failed at a larger scale when he decided to give up being Kira because he knew that he would inevitably be caught. Despite the fact that he has the edge because he's literally doing something supernatural that cannot sufficiently be proven, and there's also no evidence to support that he's the one doing it, he still parachuted out by relinquishing the Death Note and then hoping that the pieces fall in place to allow him to regain the Death Note's powers. He was completely reliant on an outside third party to allow it to happen. Not only is the Death Note itself supernatural, but he's got two different supernatural beings working for him. Three, if you want to count Misa. Uh, so he has three different outside sources. Two of those are completely undetectable, which in and of itself you could go ahead and call cheating if you want. If the whole point of someone else's goal is to capture you with a naturalistic mindset, then skirting that by being supernatural, you could technically consider to be uh, cheating to some degree, right? It's like me walking up to a random stranger and being like, "Ha ha, you lose. I've been hiding from you for the past 20 something years in this game of hide and go seek, and you never once found me." And that person's like, "What are you talking about? We never started a game of hide and go seek." And I'm like, "Exactly. So you lose." And it's like, well, we didn't even know a game was going on, so it's not really fair to say that someone lost the game. You know what I mean? So this weird competition Light has where he's trying to one up L, but he's using supernatural beings to intervene, which is literally divine intervention. He's using that in a game that he's playing with someone else who doesn't even realize they're in that game. So Light relinquishes the Death Note. His girlfriend Misa does the same, and then they're just waiting. They're waiting for some other third party who is completely undetectable to any sort of technology that no one knows about. He's just waiting for them to enter the scene again. So he's relying on their emotional instability and their willingness to participate in a game that they don't even like. Which I guess you could go ahead and give him props for manipulating that divine intervention into happening, although it's completely by chance. You know what I mean? Like he only sets things up in a way that Misa is most likely going to be captured and jailed for something, and that supernatural presence simply doesn't want them to die early, which already is a flaw in that being's logic. Just because Misa would be caught on suspicion of being Kira doesn't necessarily mean that that would be a death sentence. If there's no evidence to support it, then they may not even execute her. And I haven't read up on Japanese law or anything, but I would be awfully surprised if they executed someone in a legal court just based off the fact that she claimed to be Kira. You know what I mean? There's really not much evidence to go off of there. So it's the irrational thoughts of a supernatural being who is completely undetectable that causes the downfall of L. And in fact, that supernatural being that can't be detected, that nobody knows about, that is textbook irrational, then kills L. So, if you would like to add the sub goal to Light, that his goal is to kill L and continue being Kira, then he doesn't even do either. Like, he relinquishes being Kira on something that's essentially chance, and then he doesn't even kill L. And what's crazy is that as L is dying, Light is smiling at him as though he's the one that did it, as though he's the one that has the fucking big britches in the family, when he didn't even do it. It's not his body that he caught. And what's even crazier is he's had the help from 3 different supernatural beings, and it has taken him months to kill one person. And the only roadblock was that person has a hunch that it's Light who's Kira. Just because he's able to prevent himself from being arrested a couple times doesn't necessarily mean that he's all that smart. The same thing would have happened if he just hired a good lawyer. You know what I mean? And in fact, he may even be in a better position where he could argue to no longer be in this artificial custody, the pseudo custody. He could probably be at home writing shit in the Death Note all day long, not having to trade off his power, if he just actually utilized the law that L is utilizing. And then, of course, we could go deeper. You know what I mean? As soon as L dies, that triggers multiple responses from Mello and Near, 2 people who, in my opinion, are not as smart as L, who essentially immediately catch Light. So we're not gonna get into that. That's the video. Uh, yeah.